and welcome to this CADbert presentation on structure mode. In this video, we'll take a deeper dive into structure mode and demonstrate some of the different functions and capabilities within structure mode. So for this demo, we're going to start with a brand new floor plan. So let's go down here and we'll call this structure demo. And to start with, just like any other floor plan, you start with the basic shape of the room that you're working with. So in this case, I'm going to do it 20 feet deep and 15 feet wide. And there we have our starting shape. Now from here, if you do have any jogs in the room or any bump outs, you can do that once you have this basic shape. So let's begin by adding a bay window to the top here. So our bay window is going to be 8 feet from side to side. So we'll start here, and the bay window, we're going to add a node, and the bay window is going to start 2 feet over from this corner. And then the whole dimension of the bay window is 8 feet. So therefore, I'm going to click on this segment, do an add. I'm going to add another node. And that is going to be 8 feet over from my first node. And so this basically marks the edges of my bay window. And each node represents where the wall is going to change direction. So the overall shape of the bay window is going to be slanted, straight, and then slanted. So I want to add nodes where the slant changes direction, and I measure that as 2 feet in from each side. So therefore I am going to add nodes 2 feet in. So one node is 2 feet from that side. And then the other node I'm going to add will be 2 feet in from the other side. And typically with the bay windows, this dimension over and the depth will be the same because we typically have 45-degree angles. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click on this segment and I'm going to move it 2 feet in. And there we have our basic structure for the bay window. And now you can go ahead and add windows to each of these legs. I'm just going to add one window quickly here. So I'm going to click on that, do an add window, and the width of this window is 3 feet. And since I want it centered on that wall, I don't need to add any dimensions here. And there we have our window. And like I said, similarly, you can add windows on these slanted legs here. Now, another configuration which is fairly common is a bump out, where instead of 45-degree angles, you might have 90-degree angles. So the best way to enter a bump out is to use split nodes. And so let's start, let's say the bump out starts 6 feet from this corner here. So I will click on here and I'm going to add a split node, which is 6 feet in. And the total width of the bump out is 8 feet. So I'm going to add another split node 8 feet away from there, from the first node. Now, the reason I use split nodes here is because the split node basically represents 2 nodes in the same spot, where one of those 2 nodes is attached to this segment and the other one is attached to this segment. And the reason I want that is because when I move this segment to create the bump out, I don't want to drag the end of this segment along with it. I want to create a new wall. So I'm going to click on here and do, I'm going to click on here and do a move, and that bump out is going to be 3 feet in. Click on done, and so you'll see what happened in this case is that because it was a split node, one of the nodes remained here attached to the segment, the original location, and the other node remained with this segment, and then a wall was drawn between those two nodes. Now I will do just a single jog in the wall, which is basically a combination of using both split nodes and regular nodes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a split node to this segment that is 5 feet in from this corner. And now I am going to move this segment here. Now when I move this segment, this node is attached to this wall, so that will just change the length of the wall. But I have a split node here, so therefore that will create a new wall. So I am going to bump this out by 4 feet. So I'm going to do a move, and I want to bump it out in that direction by 4 feet. And so you can see where I had my split node, it created a new line and didn't drag the segment. And then on this side, it just extended the length of that wall. Next, I'm going to add some additional rooms relative to this one. So I'm going to add one room that lines up with this wall here. So I'm going to click on this segment, do an add room, and I'm going to make that room 10 feet by 10 feet. And I want to align this edge of the room with the outside wall of the first room, so therefore I will enter 0 here. Click done. Now what you'll see happened here is it added the room and it also rotated the whole design, and that's because the program will automatically change the rotation of your design to best fit the screen. Now I'm going to add another 10 by 10 room to the other side here. So I'll click on that wall again, do an add room, make it another 10 by 10 room. And I want it to align to this wall here, so I will enter 0 over here. And there I have my second 10 by 10 room. So in this floor plan, this segment here is actually an opening leading from this room into the hallway. So therefore I want to add an opening here. Now if you're doing this floor plan and you're in the house or space that you're floor planning, you should go ahead and measure what this opening width is. And to double check that, I would recommend measuring it on the floor plan too, just to make sure that everything is in agreement. So I'm going to go to measure mode here, and I'm going to start my measurement on this wall and end it on this wall. And that measurement is 3 foot 2 inches, which agrees with what I measured, so we're good there. And now I am going to switch back into structure mode. And as I mentioned before, these light blue nodes here are reference nodes. So to add the opening, I'm going to reference it to this node here. So I'm going to click on that node. I'm going to do an add operation, and I want to add an opening. And that opening, as we measured before, is 3 feet 2 inches wide. And I want it right up against that wall there. So I'm going to enter 0 here. And there we have our opening. When floor planning your space, it's generally a good idea to, for hallways, to create the hallways by drawing the rooms that surround the hallway rather than trying to create a shape for the hallway itself. The next topic I'd like to discuss is rooms versus closets. So far for this demo, we've just been adding rooms, and now I want to add a closet instead, and I'll show you what some of the differences are. So I'm going to add a closet to, well, I want to add it to the inside of this wall. So you see when we selected that the first time, it picked that room, but we want this room. So I'm going to click it again, and we get the wall for this room. And I'm going to do add, and I'm going to add a closet. Now, the first difference that you'll see is, unlike rooms, the default here is to place the closet on the inside of the room, whereas for rooms, the default is to place it on the outside. Now, you can always manually change that here by clicking the inside outside button, but that's the default for the closet versus the room. The other thing that changed is that it's asking for the outside dimensions, whereas for the room, it asks for the inside dimensions. And that's to accommodate your different perspective. For instance, if you're measuring a closet and it's a relatively small closet, then you're not going to really get inside the closet to try to measure the width and depth. It's easier to do that from the outside. So therefore, for closets, the default is outside dimensions. Again, you can always change that default up here to inside versus outside. So we will use the outside dimensions, and we will make this 6 feet long, and we will make it 2.5 feet deep. And so, once again, the default for the positioning is to the outside of the room, whereas the default for rooms is to the inside of the room. Now in this case, we want to we want this wall sharing this wall. So if you see right here, this is measuring to the outside, so if I put 0 here at this point, then this wall would just butt up against this, but we want it overlapping. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to default to inside, and so now when I put 0 here, it will overlap with this wall. And here we have our closet. Now the other difference is when adding doors, for example, your perspective changes. So when I add a door, I'm going to click on this and I'm going to do add door. Now the swing of the door, the perspective is from outside the closet. So if you're outside the closet and you want it opening towards you with the right hand swing, for example, you would do right hand in. And you could see if you were standing here, the right hand hinged, opening inward towards you. And then for now, I'm just going to center this. Now, if we did the same operation on a room, for example, your perspective is from inside the room. So if we were to add the same door here, which was the right hand in, you see the perspective changes. So now your perspective is from inside the room, so it's hinged on the right side and swinging in like that. And once again, I'll just center it. And so there you see the difference. This perspective for the room is from the inside of the room, where this perspective here is from the outside of the closet. Next, I'd like to discuss walls. So if you have the need to add a freestanding wall, you can do that with the add wall option. So in this case, I want to add a freestanding wall that's 5 feet long and 6 feet away from this corner. So I'm going to click on this wall and I'm going to do add wall. Again, I want it 5 feet long and 6 feet from that corner. And there we have our wall. Now, if you needed to add additional segments to this wall, for example, you can always do that. So I'm going to click on the end node here, and I'm going to do add segment. And when you do the add segment, what this is showing is that you're going to be adding from this corner of the end of the wall, and the other side you specify the location. So therefore, if I want the wall to change direction here on this corner and it goes 3 feet in this direction, then I just put this point 3 feet that way, and I get this wall. And so the dimensions from the end of the wall to this inside corner is now 3 feet. And as you saw in the add menu, add segment, now for this, the default is inside. If I were to change that to outside, you can see that it changes to this corner becomes your perspective for where you measure. And once again, you just set the outside. So I am going to cancel that. The other function that you might need on occasion are freestanding walls or rooms. So far, everything we've done has been attached to another wall. So I'm just going to add a freestanding wall over here that's not attached to any other walls. So it's similar to what we just did, except I'm going to do the add wall, and I'm just going to switch this to the outside of the room. And in order to well, let's just make this 5 feet like we did the other wall, and I'm going to click on next. And you see the default here is to have the wall attached to that reference wall, and we specify the length. But I'm going to go down here and do a detach operation, and so now we can specify the distance away from the wall as well. So I am going to put it 1 feet away from the wall, and like we did before, I'm going to put this 6 feet over, and here we have our other wall, and it's 1 foot away from this wall. Now you'll also notice that it's not lined up with this wall, which was 6 feet over. The reason for that is because my reference changed. When I was inside the room, my reference was to the inside wall. When I switched to outside the room, my reference was to the outside wall. So therefore this difference would be 1 wall thickness. In a similar manner, if you wanted to add a detached room, you can do that. I'm going to do an add room, and the default is to put it on the outside. I'm going to switch that and put it on the inside of the room. Now, let's just set this to a relatively small room. I'm going to do 4 by 4. And you can see here that in the sizing menu here, you have the option to detach it in this menu as well. But I'm just going to wait until the next menu and do the detach here. I'm going to put it 1 foot away from the wall, and then the rest I'll let it center on the wall. Click done, and there we have our detached room. So now I'd like to talk about changing wall thicknesses. Now for this example, when we first entered the rooms, we kept the default wall thickness at 5 inches. But at the time that you enter a new room, you do have the option of specifying your own wall thickness, or afterwards you can always change it. So to start with, I am going to select this shape, and I'm going to change the shape from a filled stroke drawing to an open stroke drawing. Click on open stroke, and I'm doing that to make the thickness changes a little bit easier to see. So next I'm going to change the thickness of this shape, of the thickness of the wall. So I'm going to do this, clear that, and I'm going to do a wall thickness of 8 inches instead of 5. Now you can see what happened here is for rooms, when the wall thickness changes, it pushes to the outside in order to keep the inside dimensions that you specified the same. And it also moved these two rooms as well in order to keep them aligned with the outside edge of the room. So now I'm just going to zoom in here to make this a little easier to see. And I'm going to change the width of this, the thickness of this shape. So select shape, wall thickness, and I'm going to clear that out. And I'm going to change this to also be 8 here. And you can see what happened here is that the wall thickness was pushed out and now matches this 8-inch wall. And down here, you can see also that the wall was pushed out. And so therefore, it now extends beyond the edge of this room, which was previously lined up with this. Now what I'm going to do to show you the difference between rooms and closets when it comes to wall thickness is I'm going to select this shape once again, and I'm going to go down here and I'm going to make it into a closet. So that'll just convert this to be this room to be treated as a closet. So now next what I'll do is I'll go in, I'll select the shape, and I'll put the wall thickness back down to 5. And now what you'll see is that when I change that wall thickness, for closets, it's the inside edge of the wall that moves when you change the thickness in order to maintain the outside dimensions. So therefore, the outside of this wall is still beyond this wall here because the outside didn't move, just the inside moved in order to change the thickness. Now we're going to reset and go back to the drawing where all the rooms had 5-inch walls. And one thing that you commonly encounter when doing floor plans is that your outside walls are going to be thicker than your inside walls. So for this drawing, let's just call these walls here your only inside walls. And now we want to make all the outside walls 8 inches. So what I'm going to do now is I'll just select this shape, and I'm going to change the wall thickness to 8. But this time I'm going to click on this box here, which is apply to attached rooms, and that'll change the wall thickness of all the rooms in the drawing. So I do that, and you can see that everything is now 8 inches. But now we need these walls to be 5 inches. So you just have to click on just click on those individual walls, and you can convert them to 5 inches. Now I won't bother showing you all the wall thicknesses changes for the interest of time, but we changed all those interior walls. But now we have this issue where this part of this shape is still 8 inches on the interior now. And so you'll see what happens. We can go in and change that thickness now. But the problem that you'll run into here is that these interior wall thicknesses are now 5 inches. But over here, let's zoom in so we can see that better. Right. So this little piece is still 5 inches when we want it to be 8 inches. So how do we fix that? So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go into measure mode, and I want to measure, I'll start here and measure from here to the inside of this wall. So that is 2 feet 4 inches. So I'm going to click done, go back to structure mode, and what I will do is I'm going to click on here and I'm going to add a node that's over 2 feet and 4 inches. And now all I need to do is that created a new segment here. So now we just have to go in here to that segment, change it to 8 inches. And now I have my 8-inch wall here, and I still have the 5-inch wall here. So if we expand that back out, you'll see that now all the outside walls are 8 inches and these inside walls are 5 inches. So one last thing that I'd like to show you is labeling rooms. Let's say we want to label this room as the den. So I'm going to just zoom in here. And what I will do is I'm going to select this shape and I'm going to do an attach operation, and I want to attach text. Now, the text that you add will be aligned in the direction, aligned to the wall that you pick. So I want it to be aligned so we can read it in this direction. So therefore, I'm going to pick this wall. And next, I'm going to enter the text. We'll call this the den. And I want that to be bold. So I'm going to select bold up here. And 10 inches relative to everything else is kind of small. So I'm going to set that to 20 inches high. And now, since I selected the shape, if I don't enter anything in these positioning fields, it'll center this text. So I'm going to click done, and now I have den centered in my room. Now, one other cool feature is now I'm going to click on this den, and I want to attach text under it, which includes the dimensions of the room. So therefore, I'm going to do attach text, and I want the text under it. And for this, I don't want the text to be bold, and I want it to be smaller. So I'm going to enter 10 inches here. Now you'll notice down here that there's this dimensions button. So what happens when you click the dimensions button is the program automatically calculates the dimensions of the room and puts them in the text field for you. And so now I want this text to be right up against, this reference line represents the bottom of the den text. So since I want it to be right up against it, I'm going to enter 0 here, and I want it to be centered, so I won't enter anything here, and click done, and there are my dimensions under the den. So that concludes our CADbert presentation on structure mode. Be sure to check out our other helpful videos on our YouTube channel, and you can also check out our website at cadbert.com.